Life is an unpredictable journey, constantly leading us down paths we never anticipated. Throws us surprises, both beautiful and heartbreaking, shaping us in ways we could never foresee. If someone had told me years ago that I would be here today, living alone with my son and cherishing the irreplaceable memories of my husband, I would have dismissed the thought as impossible. But life has a way of teaching us that no matter how carefully we plan, it often unfolds in ways far beyond our control. From the moment I got married, one of my deepest dreams was to become a mother. I envisioned holding a baby in my arms, watching them grow, and hearing the sweetest word, "Mom," echo through our home. Yet, as I would come to learn, dreams, no matter how pure, are not always easily realized. For years, my husband and I tried to have a child. Every month, I waited with bated breath for good news, only to feel the sharp sting of disappointment. First, I reassured myself, thinking, maybe it's just taking time. Maybe God has a special plan for us. But as the months turned into years, my hope began to waver. The weight of longing became heavier with each passing day. The world around me didn't make it easier. Seeing other women with their children, a mother pushing a stroller, a family laughing at the park, a toddler's joyful giggle. Each encounter brought a bittersweet ache to my heart. I would smile politely, even sharing in their happiness outwardly. But inside, a small voice would whisper, "Why not me? What did I do wrong to deserve this emptiness?" Eventually, we decided to seek medical advice. Visiting the doctor was nerve-wracking, but I was desperate for answers. The tests came back, and while they ruled out any issues on my part, the results revealed that my husband was facing fertility challenges. The news shattered us both, but it was especially hard on him. He was such a kind and loving man, always putting others before himself, and this burden was one he carried in silence at first. I could see the pain in his eyes, the self-blame he silently bore, even though it wasn't his fault. The days that followed were marked by quiet conversations, stolen glances, and unspoken fears. We felt stuck, unsure of how to navigate this unexpected detour. When our doctor suggested using a sperm donor, it was as if someone had thrown a lifeline into our sea of uncertainty. First, the idea felt strange and unfamiliar. How could this work? Would it still feel like our child? Night after night, we sat together, talking it over, trying to reconcile our emotions. Sometimes we argued, sometimes we cried, but mostly, we listened to each other's hearts. Finally, we decided to move forward, driven by our shared dream of building a family. The day I found out I was pregnant remains etched in my memory as one of the most miraculous moments of my life. Suddenly, all the struggles, all the heartache, felt worth it. A new chapter was beginning, one filled with hope and love. The moment I held our son for the first time was like witnessing the sunrise after a long, dark night. His tiny fingers curled around mine, and tears streamed down my face, tears of joy, relief, and gratitude. He was perfect in every way, a testament to the strength of our love and perseverance. If my happiness was overwhelming, my husband's joy was boundless. I still remember him walking around the hospital room, showing off our newborn to anyone who would look. "This is my boy," he announced with pride, his voice ringing with pure happiness. He embraced fatherhood with a passion that brought even more love into our home. From sleepless nights spent rocking the baby to sleep, to building towers of blocks during playtime, my husband was there every step of the way. He wasn't just a father, he was a partner in every sense. He would wake up for late-night feeding so I could rest, change diapers without hesitation, and spend hours making our little boy giggle. As our son grew, so did their bond. My husband was his biggest cheerleader, always celebrating his milestones. Whether it was his first wobbly steps or his first words, I would often catch them in moments of shared laughter, a sound so pure it filled our home with joy. Those days felt like a dream, one I never wanted to wake up from. But life, in all its unpredictability, doesn't let us hold on to perfection forever. One ordinary day, our world was torn apart. My husband, my rock, was involved in a tragic fire accident at work. First, I couldn't comprehend it. Surely, there was a mistake, but the truth hit like a thunderbolt. He didn't make it. For words that shattered my reality, I remember the air leaving my lungs, my knees buckling beneath me, and a pain so deep it felt physical. The days that followed were the darkest I've ever endured. The house felt empty without his laughter, his warmth, his voice. Every corner was a painful reminder of what we had lost: the chair he loved, the scent of his cologne lingering in our room, the echoes of his voice in my mind. My son, brave as he tried to be, was devastated. He had lost not just his father, but his hero, his guide, his best friend. Yet, even in our grief, we clung to each other. The bond between my son and me became our source of strength. Together, we navigated the waves of pain, finding solace in shared memories and the love my husband had left behind. Now, as I look back, I see a story not just of loss, but of resilience, love, and the enduring power of family. Life may not go as planned, but it gives us moments of beauty that make every struggle worthwhile. My husband may no longer be with us, but his love lives on in our son's laughter, in the lessons he taught us, and in the strength we carry forward every day. Shared memories and lingering emptiness. But deep inside, the void he left behind felt impossible to fill. It was as if the world had shifted, leaving me standing on unsteady ground. Life would never be the same again. After my husband's passing, it was just my son and me. The house that had once been filled with laughter, conversations, and the quiet hum of a shared life now felt different, emptier than I could have ever imagined. Every room seemed too big, too quiet, as if it mourned alongside us. The silence was an unwelcome visitor, hanging heavily in the air. I would sit alone in the evenings, straining to hear sounds that would never come again. The shuffle of my husband's familiar footsteps, his voice calling out to me from another room, or the warmth of his laughter echoing through the walls. First, the silence was unbearable. I found myself wandering aimlessly through the house, touching his belongings as if they could somehow bring him back. His favorite chair by the window remained untouched. His books still lined the shelf in the order he loved, and his cologne lingered faintly in the closet. These remnants of him were both a comfort and a wound, a reminder of what was lost and what could never be again. But life, as it does, went on. My son had his own path to walk, and though I wanted to hold him close, I knew I had to let him go. He poured himself into his studies, throwing every ounce of his energy into building a future he could be proud of. Watching him work so hard filled me with a bittersweet mixture of emotions. I felt sadness because his father wasn't there to guide him, to witness his milestones, or to share in our pride. But alongside the sadness came a deep sense of pride. He was becoming everything we had ever dreamed for him, a testament to his father's love and values. Over the years, I watched my son grow into a remarkable young man. His intelligence shone brightly, but it was his kindness and thoughtfulness that stood out most. He carried himself with the quiet strength and grace of someone far older, as though he had inherited a wisdom born of loss. I often saw glimpses of his father in him, in the way he spoke, the way he treated others, and even in his smile. When he graduated from university, I was the proudest mother in the room. As I clapped for him, tears streamed down my face, and my heart felt like it might burst. I thought of all the challenges he had faced, all the nights he had stayed up studying, and all the moments when he had pushed through his grief to achieve something extraordinary. That day was a triumph not just for him but for both of us, a testament to our resilience. He didn't stop there. My son worked tirelessly, and soon he became a successful architect. Seeing his designs come to life was nothing short of magical. Every blueprint, every building felt like a piece of him, his creativity, his determination, and his dreams brought into the world. Watching his success filled my heart with joy, but it also stirred a familiar ache. How I wished his father could have been there to see it all, to stand beside him and say, "You've done us proud, son." As his career blossomed, so did his personal life. He met a young woman who seemed to be his perfect match: sweet, intelligent, and full of life. She brought out the best in him, and his face would light up whenever he spoke about her. Their love was pure and undeniable, a reminder to me of what I had once shared with my husband. One day, he came home and announced that he planned to marry her. My heart swelled with happiness, and yet, beneath the joy, there was a shadow of loneliness that I couldn't quite shake. The house still felt too quiet, and my evenings stretched on endlessly. While I was overjoyed for my son, I couldn't help but wonder what my own future held. A gentle push toward healing. Not long after, my son and his fiancée sat me down for a conversation that caught me completely off guard. She brought up the idea of me remarrying, her voice gentle yet insistent. First, I was taken aback. My son chimed in, his words filled with love and concern. He explained that he worried about me being alone, especially with him starting a new chapter in his life. I brushed off their concerns, laughing lightly and assuring them that I was fine. But deep down, I knew they were right. The house, once filled with the hum of a family, now echoed with emptiness. The nights were the hardest, the silence stretching out like an endless void. Memories of my husband would flood my mind, the way he used to hold my hand as we fell asleep, the warmth of his body beside me, and the sound of his voice telling me everything would be okay. Now, all I had were those memories in the cold, empty space beside me. That night, I lay awake thinking about their words. Could I really consider opening my heart to someone new? Would it be fair to my husband's memory? An unexpected moment of clarity. Around 2 a.m., a soft knock at my door startled me. My son's voice called out, hesitant yet filled with concern. He stepped into my room, his usual confidence replaced by something softer, more vulnerable. "Mom," he began, sitting at the edge of my bed. "I know how much you miss Dad. I see it every day, even when you try to hide it. You've been so strong for me all these years, but now it's time to think about yourself. You deserve happiness too." His words hit me harder than I expected. For so long, I had seen him as my child, someone I needed to protect. But here he was, a grown man, offering me the same care and protection I had always given him. "You've spent so many years putting me first," he continued. "But I'm getting married, and while I'll always be here for you, I won't be around as much. I just want you to consider this for yourself." His words lingered with me long after he left. As I lay in bed, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in years: hope. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to let go of the past just enough to open my heart to the possibility of a new beginning. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine a future where the silence didn't feel so heavy, where the emptiness could be filled with laughter and love once more. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of emotions, a delicate balance between quiet reflection and moments of deep introspection. Each evening, as the house settled into its familiar stillness, I would sit alone, and my son's words echoed in my mind, his concern for my well-being, the urgency in his voice as he insisted I deserved happiness. It was a sentiment that refused to leave me. And it wasn't just him, his fiancée, too, played a part in this shifting tide of thoughts. With her gentle encouragement and heartfelt words, she became another voice in a growing chorus, urging me to think about what life could look like beyond the boundaries I had set for myself. First, the very notion felt foreign, almost unthinkable. How could I even begin to imagine a future with someone else? My husband had been my world for so long, my partner, my confidant, my everything. The idea of opening my heart to another person felt like a betrayal to the love we had shared, a dishonor to the memories that had once filled our home with warmth and laughter. It was a fear I couldn't easily shake off. How could I walk away from what I had known for so long? But as the days bled into weeks, something inside me began to shift. I started to realize that holding on to the past didn't necessarily mean I had to forsake the future. Life, after all, is relentless. It does not pause for anyone, no matter how much we might wish it would. Time keeps moving, sweeping us forward, sometimes when we are not ready. Yet, as much as I had tried to stop it, life was still moving around me, and I realized that in order to move forward, I would need to let go of the idea that the past was the only place I could find meaning. I had spent so many years focused on fulfilling roles, being a devoted wife, a loving mother, and later, navigating the painful and isolating process of grieving my husband's loss. Somewhere along the way, I had forgotten about myself. My identity had become so intertwined with those roles that I had lost sight of who I was when no one else needed me. Who was I beyond these titles? What did I truly want now that my son had grown, established a life of his own, and no longer needed me in the way he once had? These questions haunted me, filling my thoughts, stirring feelings of uncertainty and unease. But in the midst of this confusion, I began to entertain the possibility my son had so patiently planted. The idea of opening my heart again wasn't easy to entertain. It felt like a leap into the unknown, a risk I wasn't sure I was ready to take. There were moments when doubt would sneak in, whispering that I was too old, that it was too late for me to start over, that I should just be content with the memories I had. Why disturb the peace when the past, though painful, was all I had left? But then, I would see the hope in my son's eyes, the way he looked at me, as if he believed in me, as if he truly believed I deserved more than just the memories that had anchored me in the past. His belief in me was a powerful force, one that gave me the courage to entertain thoughts I had long dismissed. One evening, as we sat together over a quiet dinner, he brought it up once more. His voice was soft, yet there was a steady confidence in his words. "Mom," he said, carefully choosing his words, "you don't have to decide anything right now, but just think about it. You've spent so much of your life taking care of everyone else. Now it's your turn to be cared for." Those words stayed with me long after the plates were cleared and the house returned to its familiar quiet. They resonated deep within me, like a melody I hadn't known I needed to hear. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine what it might be like to share my life with someone again. Not out of necessity, but out of the simple human desire for connection. The thought of having someone to talk to, someone to share my joys and sorrows with, seemed like an impossible dream just weeks before. But now, didn't feel so far-fetched. The idea of starting over, of embracing a future that didn't feel defined by grief, was both exciting and terrifying. There was so much uncertainty ahead, so many unknowns. Could I really open myself to new possibilities? Could I risk putting my heart out there again? But despite the fear, I knew I wasn't alone in this. My son's unwavering support, combined with the quiet but steady encouragement from his fiancée, gave me a sense of hope I hadn't felt in years. It was a small spark, but it was enough to take the first step. For the first time in a long while, I started to believe that perhaps there was more happiness still waiting for me. It wasn't going to be easy, the path ahead was uncertain, and there would be moments of doubt and fear. But I wasn't walking it alone. With the love and encouragement of my son and his fiancée, I felt the courage to face the future, to imagine a life filled with new possibilities, and to believe that there was more to life than the shadows of the past. Thank you for taking the time to watch our videos. If you find the content useful and interesting, don't forget to like, share, and especially subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. Our channel will always update attractive, inspiring, and useful content for you. Click the bell icon to receive notifications as soon as there are new videos. Your support is the biggest motivation for us to continue to develop. Thank you and see you in the next videos.